Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is all about figuring out if you've met your twin flame. We do have another video on the channel about this, but this video goes into a little more detail because it's probably one of the most important things to get clear on. Now, we've all heard about soulmates, karmic relationships, and other spiritual bonds. So what exactly is it that sets twin flames apart? With all the mixed messages and romantic ideas floating around online, it's tough to know what's real. So what we're gonna do is look at some true signs that can tell you if you've really met your twin flame. We're not just talking about the dreamy together forever stuff, over-the-top love stories, or surface-level similarities and attractions. We're also looking into the deep, intense, and often painful truths of this unique connection. Our aim with this video is to walk you through the ups and downs of a twin flame relationship and to clear up any confusion around the reality of meeting your other self. Stick around as we share 5 signs that indicate you've met your twin flame. We'll also talk about how this experience is more than a passing trend. It's a life-changing spiritual journey. Let's get into it. First of all, why is it important to understand all this? Knowing if you're on a twin flame journey is crucial for those going through it. Many of us end up in situations where we're not sure if it's a twin flame connection or not, and we're looking for some clear answers. There's a lot of mixed info out there, some of it pointing to soulmate-like connections, which, although spiritual, are quite different from twin flames. Then there's the other side, where it might seem like narcissism or codependency, and while it might look like that, that's not what's going on here. Twin flame situations are unique, and usual advice from psychology or spiritual practices like trauma work, exploring Akashic records, or energy healing just don't work, and in fact, might even make things more confusing. The deep pain in some phases of a twin flame relationship needs addressing, which is why figuring out if you're really in such a relationship is key. While our channel dives into soul connections, understanding twin flames and their dynamics, and offers spiritual and life advice, the hardest part is figuring out if you're actually in a twin flame situation. You see, twin flame experiences are unique but can look like other situations. That's why it's essential to figure out if what you're experiencing is really a twin flame relationship. It might seem complex, but it's actually straightforward when you look closer. However, our everyday lives and the things society considers normal can muddy the waters. A twin flame connection is a real thing with distinct evidence and patterns. When you focus on these, you'll often realize you've known what's been going on all along. But again, our current understanding and the world around us can prevent us from seeing what's right in front of us. From this video, you're likely to come to one of 2 conclusions. You're either in a twin flame situation or you're not. A big clue is emotional turmoil. If you haven't felt deep emotional distress for a while, you're probably not in a twin flame situation. Now, keep in mind that just because you've experienced pain, it doesn't automatically mean it's a twin flame thing, as there are other possibilities. However, if you have not felt significant emotional strain, especially an extended downturn, then it's likely not a twin flame situation. Still, you can learn a lot for your own spiritual and practical growth. Think of this not as a sign, but as a starting point. Another important thing to remember is that a twin flame connection, once activated, is always with you. It never really goes away. You need to recognize it and lift your awareness to truly understand it. Over the past decades, we've seen many people who have met their twin flames get caught in a loop. They experience this back and forth, the runner-chaser dynamic, and the repeating pain of being apart. Even after trying therapy, they keep getting pulled back to each other, stuck in this cycle of intense emotional ups and downs year after year, even decade after decade. It's like they can't escape it. On the other hand, if what you have isn't a twin flame connection, it'll eventually fade over time. It won't have this lasting, unbreakable hold. Before we go any further, there are a couple of key things for us to clear up. First, let's talk about what twin flames are. While people have different ideas about them, they're generally considered to be 2 people from the same soul or who share the same inner being. Next, people often ask if everyone has a twin flame. The answer is both yes and no. Yes, everyone has a twin flame because it's necessary for a soul to manifest physically. However, not all are incarnated simultaneously or will meet their twin flame in this lifetime. Meeting your twin flame in this life doesn't make you different, but it does suggest that your consciousness level is slightly more active compared to the population at large. But remember, this doesn't make anyone superior or inferior to anyone else. We're all walking the same path, just at different points. This recent surge in twin flame encounters is one of the first big waves in our current cycle of human history. Sure, there have been twin flame meetings throughout the past, some even documented, but they've been largely isolated. These past encounters have set the stage for more people to experience them now. These initial waves are also getting society ready for a potential shift into the 5D, assuming we can lift up planetary consciousness enough. But that's a big topic and maybe something for another video. Many online platforms talking about twin flames tend to focus on the positive signs, similarities, and external events. While these signs are important, they can also give an incomplete picture and lead us to counterproductive assumptions about our situation. That's why it's important to pay attention to the deeper, more intense stuff that happens inside us. You see, a twin flame connection reveals the truth about who you really are. It brings out your flaws in a very strong and deeply personal way. But even with all its intensity, this relationship can turn out to be one of the most positive, in sync, and deep experiences you'll ever have. Quickly, before we jump into the signs, just a reminder, if you're liking this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means a lot to us. A big shout out to everyone who's been engaging and sharing their thoughts. You guys are awesome. All right, let's get into the first sign. Sign number 1, the instant bond that feels like home right from the start is usually marked by a dreamlike relationship that lasts about 4 to 14 weeks, or about 1 to 3 months before hitting the first major breakup. Now, some of what I said before might sound like I'm downplaying the honeymoon phase, but it's a crucial part of the twin flame journey. It's a big clue that you're in this type of relationship because it's typically the first thing you experience. Before this, you might have had dreams or visions and other intuitive insights. This phase kicks off when twin flames meet. We call this soul recognition, where your soul sees itself in both you and your twin flame. It's a smooth, easy period where everything seems perfect and your dreams feel like they're coming true. This connection can be romantic or just friendly, but either way, the connection feels almost flawless. But even during this blissful time, you might start to sense that something's not quite right. Maybe you get a little too anxious if they're slow to reply to a text. These small issues are early hints of bigger challenges ahead, but for the most part, everything feels seamless and effortless. Looking back, you might wonder how you got so close, so fast. It's like you've known them forever, like coming home. This comfort level is unlike anything you've experienced before. The first sign of a twin flame connection often happens without you realizing it. During this phase, you're probably not looking up twin flames. You're just enjoying the moment, feeling on top of the world. This sign becomes more noticeable in hindsight as you reflect on your journey. While most twin flame signs are about current happenings or the recent past, this first stage is typically something you look back on, and it seems much further away. Every twin flame pair is unique, each with its own special moments and signs. Still, the connection is always deep and meaningful, different from anything else. It's important to understand that this phase isn't about falling for someone else in the conventional sense. Even though it might seem like it, often the person on the other side is different from your usual type, and sometimes age gaps, marital situations, and other norms don't align. What it's about is your soul recognizing itself in both you and your twin flame. It's you coming into contact with your own energy. This realization triggers a burst of energy, and you're right in the middle of it. What happens next is two egos from the same soul coming together. It starts wonderfully with a strong attraction, but then the polarity starts to build up, getting closer and closer to critical mass. Little things like missed calls or forgotten plans start to bug you way more than they should, especially for a relationship that is still quite new. Another important part of this phase is how long it lasts. And what we're talking about here is the time from when you first meet to the first big split. It's not a long, drawn-out phase. It usually goes on for about 4 to 14 weeks. This short span is due to the buildup of polarized, fear-based energy in your shared energetic field, which is why it doesn't last for months or years. This tension and energy exchange usually hit their peak in a few weeks, leading to a lot of intense negative energy. This negative energy comes from fear-based thinking, influenced by ego-centered ideas learned from society over a lifetime. It builds up fast, taking less time in intense cases or up to 14 weeks in less intense situations. Most people we've talked to say this is the usual timeline for these developments. It's a defining feature of the honeymoon phase of twin flames. We're focusing on the time from when you first meet to the first big breakup or ghosting. This isn't about the whole relationship, but specifically about this initial period. During this initial time, you might notice smaller instances of ghosting, like not getting replies or sudden disappearances from the runner in the relationship. This is when the runner-chaser dynamic starts to emerge. We're discussing the period from when you first connect to that initial major breakup or ghosting phase, where suddenly there's no contact for the long haul, and it feels really painful. Now, there is one situation, and this doesn't happen often, that doesn't quite fit the usual timeline for the honeymoon phase. This is when twin flames have already been in a long-term relationship, or even married before soul recognition occurs. While you still have that 10-week honeymoon period with the polarity buildup, it's happening in the context of a marriage, so it's not as clear-cut. This is very rare and doesn't happen often, and when it does, things can be different because of their shared past and maybe even kids being involved. But most of the other signs we talk about still apply. Again, this is very rare, even among the rare meetings of twin flames, and doesn't happen often. But even though it is rare, it's important to mention it because it can happen. Just know, this kind of situation is really tough to deal with and not something you want to find yourself in. Let's talk about sign number 2, the sudden confusing shift right after the honeymoon period. This phase is marked by obsessive thinking, deep pain, a sense of helplessness and regret that lasts for months unless it's properly dealt with. Now, it should also be said that unlike the pain of a regular breakup, this pain doesn't stop until you fix it and will keep haunting you year after year. Your twin flame will come in and out of your life, leaving you in pieces every time until the dynamic is properly understood and handled effectively. We're going into the biggest sign of a twin flame relationship, the dark night of the soul. If you've been through this, you know exactly what I mean. If you're not sure if you've experienced it, then it's likely that you're not in a twin flame situation. The twin flame dark night of the soul is incredibly intense and unlike anything else you've ever experienced. It's like the worst, dragged-out emotional experience of your life. From my own experience, it's hard to even put into words. It's a bizarre, overwhelming experience. When you're in the middle of it, it takes over everything. It's like a non-stop, day in, day out obsession with someone you had a brief but amazing connection with. Your mind is constantly racing with thoughts about them from the moment you wake up until you finally sleep. And getting to sleep is a struggle because these thoughts just don't stop. You're constantly thinking about ways to bring them back, yet feeling like it's impossible. It's a mental nightmare that just won't quit. It's not just thinking, it's like a constant stream of energy flowing through your mind. It's so intense and endless that I still remember the relief I felt the first time I realized I'd gone a few minutes without thinking about them after I began to understand what was going on. It felt like a major breakthrough. That's how intense it is. Now, we all know what it's like to go through breakups and see relationships fall apart. It hurts, and it's normal to get really sad for a few weeks or even feel down for a few months after a serious relationship ends. And usually as time goes by, we start to feel better bit by bit, right? Not with twin flames. You see, what we're talking about here is an unusually severe reaction to a relationship that didn't last long or was just a casual thing. The way you can't stop thinking about it in a twin flame situation is way more intense than what you'd feel after a normal breakup. It's constant, all day, every day, for months. A twin flame relationship might be short, just a few weeks, but it affects you so much that it feels like your whole life stops. You fall into a really deep, dark place. It makes you question yourself, feel like things are out of control, and wonder how you got so caught up in it. The main sign and hallmark of a twin flame connection is this undeniable obsessive thinking. This is the common thread shared by many we've spoken to. If you're wondering whether you've experienced this kind of obsessive thinking, chances are you're not in a twin flame relationship. It's the type of thing you can't miss. Now, it's not uncommon to have bouts of overthinking, heartache, limerence, and even obsession, particularly in complex relationships or stressful situations, especially if you're someone with an intensely focused mind, and these experiences are far from trivial. However, what we're talking about here is entirely different. It's a current of pain and doubt, with thoughts of longing, desperation, feeling judged, more doubt, then doubt about doubt, then feeling like you're done, and before you finish blinking, you're right back to the beginning of a new cycle. Your mind is glued to this cycle all day, every day, with no breaks. You can barely do anything else, and you're just going through the motions. It's the type of thing you can't miss. If you're questioning whether or not it's there, it's not. You cannot miss it. Being aware of this obsessive thinking is key. You might not fully grasp what's happening, but you feel that something is off. This kind of thinking can feel like an external force or a relentless stream of energy has hijacked your mind. If this sounds familiar, you're likely in a twin flame situation. In this phase, a lot happens, mostly centered around out-of-control obsessive behavior and thoughts. This could mean constantly checking their social media, digging into their online presence, or looking for any information about them or responses from them. This behavior goes beyond your normal habits, driven by an intense need to include them in your life like nothing you've ever felt before. And even though you don't actually act on the impulses to reach out to them, you still have this intense drive. You might also start neglecting yourself. You're so wrapped up in thoughts of this other person and what you had together, no matter how brief, that everything else feels meaningless. You might find yourself slipping into a sort of depression, losing interest in almost everything, just going through the motions. You might not eat properly, have trouble sleeping because of the constant thoughts, and even if you do sleep, you wake up often still thinking about them. Everything else just seems to fade away. This intense emotional state leads to the next sign, which involves physical symptoms. Now, let's dive into sign number 3, physical symptoms, which is the physical side of the intense emotional energy exchange. In this context, when we talk about physical symptoms, we're referring to the emotional intensity that manifests as actual physical pain in your heart or abdomen area. It's also widely known in society as heartbreak. The reason why this happens in a twin flame situation, despite the relationship being short-lived, is pretty clear. It's the same energy that's behind your obsessive thoughts. It builds up and focuses to the point where, sometimes suddenly or following certain events, you feel this intensity in your energy centers, especially in the heart or sacral chakra. This is because your heart chakra is a major spot where your soul's energy, signal, and vibrations are most concentrated in your body. This is also sometimes called the core wound. This area goes through a lot of intense energy flow, causing physical pain. This is a major sign that you're in a twin flame situation. You've got two egos, part of the same soul, sharing an energy field. When their energies clash and turn into fear, it hits you physically. You might feel it in your chest, gut, or heart. There might be times you're curled up crying or just sitting there when a thought strikes and you feel a sharp pain in your gut. That's what we mean by physical symptoms. But there's more to it. Because of neglecting your physical well-being, you might notice other changes. This neglect can lead to significant weight loss, not the healthy kind you get from working out, but from not taking care of yourself. A lot of things get pushed aside, and you might find yourself just barely getting through the day, feeling very down. These are additional physical symptoms, along with severe anxiety. Symptoms like anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and hyperventilation are common for both the runner and the chaser. For the chaser, it's an intense longing. For the runner, it's more like a torment they don't fully understand because they're trying to run away from the connection. They know where it's coming from, but they're in denial. This pain and these symptoms lead to different ways of coping, as the energy affects both sides. Moving on from the dark night of the soul and its physical symptoms, let's lighten things up with the 4th sign, signs and synchronicities. This is about coming across twin flame information in a way that feels like more than just a coincidence. It's about a series of events showing you there's something bigger at play, guiding you beyond your normal, limited sense of self. Finding out about twin flames in this unusual, serendipitous way is a big hint. It might mean you're either starting this journey, or you might soon be. This could be a prep stage, or you might be meant to experience a similar deep soul connection. Or it could just be expanding your understanding without you actually going through it yourself. However, if you've been through both the honeymoon phase and the dark night of the soul, especially if you were never really into these mystical ideas before, this is a big deal. If you start seeing things like angel numbers or spiritual signs, and they lead you to information about twin flames that fits your experience, it's a strong sign you're in a twin flame situation. The idea is that there's a soul-level energy guiding you, opening you up, especially if you've been closed off by fear. This openness leads to all these synchronicities, making you more aware of them. Often, these signs were always there, just not noticed. For many, seeing number sequences like 1111 was the first hint, leading them to more info. From my own experience, after the confusing time with my twin flame when I had no idea what was going on, I kept seeing 1111 everywhere. One day, desperate and confused, I noticed a YouTube video about why you're seeing the number 1111, where they discussed meeting your twin flame as one of the reasons why you're seeing this number. Now, I was the kind of person who would steer clear of unusual concepts like soulmates and twin flames, but I was at a point where nothing else made any sense. That was my first introduction to the concept, and while I was extremely skeptical at first, it really resonated as I reluctantly watched more and more videos. And once it clicks, it's as if twin flame information is the only thing that can bring this turmoil to some sort of rest. As I learned more, I found some perspectives that didn't quite sit right in my gut and others that made more sense from where I was at the time. This journey is about following your inner guidance. Nobody has all the answers, but everyone you encounter adds a piece to the puzzle. Signs and synchronicities, especially those related to twin flames, are crucial, with repeating numbers like 1111 being among the most common. You may also start to notice signs related to your twin flame in your daily life. For instance, you might notice their car model, a license plate with a significant number or word, their birthday appearing as a total on a grocery receipt, or their area code featured in a weather forecast. You may even encounter someone who bears a striking resemblance to them, or who shares their nationality in an unexpected place. Other significant symbols may also appear in your life through movies, songs, or other experiences. These aren't just random, they're linked to the intense energy of your connection, and mainly because of the law of attraction responding to the massive amount of energy that's been flowing through you. To sum it up, if you're being drawn to twin flame info, it's probably important for your soul. And if you're seeing all these signs and synchronicities, along with a newfound openness that's leading you to learn about twin flames, it's a strong sign you're in a twin flame situation. That's the fourth sign to watch out for. Now for the fifth and main sign, a deep inner certainty paired with intense, constant external doubt. This sign is a bit complex because it has two sides reflecting the nature of consciousness and the twin flame connection. It's about an inner knowing, a deep sense inside you that just understands. This knowing is at the heart of many other signs. When you look inside, you feel what's happening, but on the outside, there's a lot of doubt, and it's quite intense. The key thing is, you just know. You know you've met your twin flame, and you have this feeling almost like you're meant to be together forever. It might seem odd, especially considering how society views romance and obsession, but it's a calm, sure feeling of unity with this person beyond any other considerations. This inner knowing is the most important sign, but there's also the doubt, which comes from outside influences. And this is the other side of the main sign. It may seem like they are at odds with each other, but it's actually the natural consequence of the intense power of this inner knowing. Because you know inside what the truth is, and since this truth has intense energy behind it, when you then look on the outside and don't see evidence supporting it, it creates intense doubt. You find yourself wondering, could this really be my twin flame? You might see a sign that confirms it, feel reassured for a bit, but then fall back into doubt. This is the essence of the twin flame experience. It's about elevating your awareness and understanding yourself. Deep down, your soul knows that you and your twin flame aren't two separate people but one soul. It's not that both of you make up your soul, but rather your soul encompasses both of you. In other words, the two of you originate from the same soul, not the other way around. Your soul is much more expansive than the limited individual ideas you have about yourselves. This awareness is there at the soul level. All you need to do to tap into it is to slow down and be present. This inner knowing is the fuel that drove the honeymoon phase, and through the outer doubt, it also drives the dark night of the soul. It's a powerful energy, the core essence of what makes you who you are. The feeling that there's someone else there, someone you have to win over in the case of the chaser or someone you have to run away from in the case of the runner, is the outer doubt. Following these ego-based impulses leads to the dark night of the soul or separation energy. However, through the calm guidance of your inner knowledge and the signs and synchronicities guided by your soul, you shift from living externally to internally, experiencing life from a soul level of consciousness. This leads to a permanent physical union with your twin flame. You find peace within yourself, bringing all parts of yourself together physically. Then, the inner knowing is confirmed externally. Initially, there's inner knowing and outer doubt, and you can tell them apart by how they feel and what they urge you to do. If you feel the need to take action, like reaching out to your twin flame to convince them or win them over, that's coming from doubt. But when you find moments of peace in the certainty of your knowledge, that's coming from within. It's like signs and synchronicities, they occur naturally. You see them, and you recognize them. You don't force them. You catch the clock at just the right time without effort, or you notice a license plate right in front of you on your way to work with a significant number. This happens when you're in the flow of your inner knowing or alignment with your higher self. The inner knowing is confident and certain. It understands that you and your twin flame are one, and there's nothing you need to do. No healing or reaching out is necessary to bring you together because you're not really apart. From this understanding, you naturally find yourself in the same place without strain. If you act out of doubt, you'll keep trying various tactics to keep the relationship going, which could lead to increased and deepened levels of pain and disappointment. But if you're guided by inner knowledge, it might seem like nothing is happening at first as the muddy waters clear. But eventually, you come together and stay together, permanently, seamlessly, and naturally. Once you reach this state, there's no going back. Life at the soul level is beautiful, free, certain, and good. It still has dark times, but the perspective then is very different because they're seen as ways to express greater levels of who you are. Life at the ego level is insecure, constantly seeking validation and trying to force things to happen. Here, even when good things happen, they become areas of weakness, vulnerability, possessiveness, and obsession. Twin flame soul recognition is an unmistakable call from your soul to live life at a higher level of awareness. It's a shift from living an ego-based life of limited understanding and a vulnerability to the whims of the constant cycles of pain and pleasure, to a soul-based life of unlimited peace, possibility, and understanding, even when all the odds look like they're stacked against you. Also, keep in mind that recognizing your twin flame isn't as simple as ticking boxes off a checklist. While some signs might resonate strongly, others might not be as clear, and that's fine. The essence of a twin flame connection is in the overall experience and the unique mix of signs that appear for you. A key thing to consider is the intensity of your doubt. If you're really struggling over whether someone is your twin flame, that intense concern might be one of the most telling signs. If you're genuinely questioning this while experiencing many of these signs, you're likely in a twin flame situation. And now, before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap of the 5 signs we've discussed, just to get them all in one place. Remember, these signs are key to understanding if you're in a twin flame situation. Sign number 1, feeling of closeness or the honeymoon period. This is where everything feels perfect and you're totally in sync with your twin flame. It's a blissful, dreamlike time that lasts about 4 to 14 weeks before the first major shakeup. Sign number 2, ghosting and emotional intensity, also known as the dark night of the soul. This is when things get tough. You experience deep emotional pain and obsessive thoughts about your twin flame, and it's an all-consuming, intense phase. Sign number 3, physical symptoms. This sign is all about the physical manifestation of your emotional intensity. You might feel actual pain in your heart or chest, which is a direct result of the energy and emotions swirling around in this twin flame journey. Sign number 4, signs and synchronicities. Here, we're talking about those little coincidences that don't feel like coincidences at all. You might come across information about twin flames in unexpected ways, see repeating numbers, or notice other synchronicities that guide you towards understanding your twin flame connection. And finally, sign number 5, inner knowing, outer doubt. This one's about having a deep, unshakable feeling that you've met your twin flame, paired with a lot of external doubt and questioning. It's the ultimate sign that combines certainty and confusion in the twin flame journey. So, there you have it, a rundown of the 5 key signs that you might be in a twin flame situation. Keep in mind that every twin flame journey is unique, but these signs can help guide you on your path. Alright, so to wrap things up, the twin flame journey is somewhat of a mixed bag, but at the same time, it's quite straightforward. The tricky part comes from how society and media have painted soulmates and twin flames as this dreamy, perfect idea. Plus, there's the intense energy that's part of the twin flame experience. Often, we only hear about the positive aspects of twin flames, or we misunderstand the negatives and find ourselves in confusing situations. However, the essence of it is really about confronting higher realities and encountering your own soul. The hard part to grasp, especially with how society thinks, is that your twin flame isn't just another person. It's actually you in a different body. This might sound crazy because of what we're usually taught and understand about life, mainly that it's limited to physical phenomena. When you come across this truth and other spiritual insights, you first have to get past these societal beliefs that everything is physical and fits neatly into certain boxes. You gotta deal with all this intense energy and the weirdness of experiencing something that should be impossible but is clearly happening. This is what makes the twin flame situation so confusing. The other insights we share on our channel can help clear up a lot of these ideas. Getting a grip on the science behind twin flames and how they appear in our lives is a crucial first step. Before we sign off, just a quick reminder. If you liked this video, please hit that thumbs up and think about subscribing. Your support really helps us keep bringing content like this to you. We also love hearing from you, so feel free to drop a comment below. Tell us what you think, share your own stories, or ask any questions you have about twin flames. Your comments are what motivate us. And if you're on your own twin flame journey, remember to trust the process, follow your gut, and stay true to what your soul is telling you. Thanks for watching. We hope this video has helped illuminate the mysterious and beautiful world of twin flames. Keep exploring, growing, and loving. Stay in touch, and we'll catch you in the next video.